My fusion system, fusing 1,000 chickens at the start. Chapter 171, Building a City Wall with the Body of a Golem. Congratulations, Master, for successfully fusing more than 10 manners and more than 500 meteorites of peak gold tier strength. The damaged silver tier Blackmoon castle has been upgraded to a platinum tier city in the sky. Platinum tier city in the sky. Attributes: 8 km in length, 5 km in width, and 3 km in height. There are more than 1,000 residences with courtyards. The rest of the rooms include bathrooms, utility rooms, kitchens, and others. There are more than 500 rooms and countless flower beds and trees. Effects: air movement, created by a platinum tier meteorite, thus having the effect of floating and flying. Accelerated training, increases training speed by 100%, indestructible. Elites below platinum tier would not be able to cause any damage to the buildings, and domain, suppresses hostile creatures within a 10 km radius of the castle. Additional skill: earth-shattering meteorite cannon. A thick barrel extends from the edge of the sky city and fires a meteorite-like cannonball to attack the enemy to cause an attack comparable to that of a platinum tier elite. However, the city in the sky cannot be moved when the attack is released. Just as I thought, the meteorite came from the sky, and Blackmoon Castle has fused with the meteorite, which had the ability to levitate. It also comes with offensive magic. Watson looked up at the sky. He was happy. If he had only fused with peak gold tier meteorites, Blackmoon Castle would still not be able to float in the air. Watson needed a way to get the astrologer to engrave flying spells on it. He did say that the giant rock golem summon was the last spell he would learn that day. It was not a lie. He could ask the astrologer to do it without any spell. If the astrologer knew what he had planned, he would be so angry that his beard would tremble. The massive mansion in the sky could no longer be described as a simple mansion. It was a small city that stretched for nearly 10 kilometers. The city's foundation was a meteorite base with dark red patterns. It flickered bright and dark alternately. The meteorite was the base of the city in the sky, and the main building was a gorgeous castle made from more than 10 manors. The castle was divided into 3 levels. The first level was the courtyard, and there were many flower beds and trees. Tall statues and fountains could be seen everywhere, and birds and butterflies fluttered around the area. The second level was surrounded by many independent rooms, which could be used for the subordinates, relatives, and friends. The highest level was the main body of the castle, and the towering spire pierced through the clouds. The entire sky city was solemn. It looked like a giant as it stood in the sky and looked downward with its cold eyes. Really? Is that city floating in the sky? A Blackmoon Castle servant stood beside the tent as she looked at the bare ground in front of her and the massive shadow above her head. Her voice trembled. She had never seen a castle that could fly. She had never even heard of it, let alone seen it. It was truly a wonder. After young Master Watson became the astrologer's disciple, he could even make buildings fly in the sky. However, I have a question. If that castle flies into the sky, how do those who are not at silver tier go up? A servant asked. He was shocked, and doubts arose in his heart. You want to go up if you are not silver tier? The one who spoke was Martin, the former Mage Guild elder. He had a disdainful look on his face. What can you do with that bit of strength? Enjoy the scenery. He was also looking at the sky but with a glint in his eyes. It was true that he hated Watson because of Audrey, but at the same time, he had to admit that Watson was too outstanding. If only he were the one who had created the city where he could stand and order people around, he could only wonder. Every man wanted to be a hero. The city that Watson created had fulfilled all of his fantasies. The castle has been fused. Now it's time for the wall. Watson had no idea what the others were thinking. He stretched his right hand outward. A world tree brand spread from his palm, and he used it as a staff. The 7 stars of the Pleiades that illuminate the east, the giant star that guides the west, the platinum star that runs through the north, the life star that blesses the south, and the stars that shine with history, please listen to my call and descend at this moment. Earth Elemental Platinum Tier Spell, descend from the heavens, giant lava golem, activate. As he chanted, the clouds in the sky were dyed red. Huge meteorites burned with a terrifying might as they descended and caused the earth to tremble even before they dropped. The falling meteors twitched in midair as they changed their forms. Thick arms grew from the raging flames, and it caused the rock's outer shell to turn into fragments and peeled off. Next, there were two huge feet. The lava golem's body twisted 180 degrees ahead with two horns and one eye, and a thick and long tail grew out, respectively. There were hundreds of meteorites, each of which turned into a lava golem. The lava golems were elemental giants. Their appearance was like a magnified demon god, and their bodies were wrapped in lava. Some people said that the elemental giants were not weaker than dragons during ancient times. However, the elemental giants' fertility was too low, so there were relatively few of them. As for the summoning spell that humans used, it was passed down from ancient times. Even though it could not allow the elemental giants to transform fully, it was enough to use a part of their power. For example, hundreds of lava golems had landed on the ground at that moment, and each step left a deep pit with green smoke and black soil. The sound of their footsteps was like gongs and drums that resounded in people's hearts. There were thousands of people in the city in the sky, including the Blackmoon Knights, who had transported the meteorites from the broken manors. None of them dared to breathe in front of those lava golems. They could only watch as the 100-meter-long lava giants walked out in an orderly manner. When they reached a place about 10 kilometers away from the city in the sky, they laid on the ground quietly, one by one, closed their eyes and fell into silence. Like dominoes, the lava golems laid down one after another. Soon, all the golems disappeared. A circle of high walls that stretched over 10 kilometers appeared on the ground in their place. It was similar to the previous Blackmoon town walls, but they were taller and looked even more majestic. The walls were more than 10 meters tall. Boiling lava flowed from above and melted into a red river outside the city wall to form a natural moat. A sulfur-smelling fountain had penetrated the ground inside the wall, and a few hot springs appeared there. The astrologer's body was soaked as he crept out from one of the hot springs. He brushed away the beard on his face. He grumbled gently, "I have fallen into a pit for no apparent reason, such bad luck. Watson may be right, it might not be a good idea to go out today." The astrologer calculated for a while, and his attention was attracted by the wall made of lava golems. Watson is such a prodigy. Each lava golems is comparable to a platinum tier elite and can play a significant role on the battlefield. However, he used them as a wall. Furthermore, he improved the summoning spell that I taught him. Every time I taught him a spell, he improved it. It's simply too unbearable. No, even if it's not suitable for me to go out today, I still have to leave. My heart can't take it if I were to stay here. Then, the astrologer climbed out of the hot spring and used a fire elemental spell to dry the water on his body. A magical array appeared by his feet and made him disappear. The people in Blackmoon Castle were even more shocked than the astrologer. The Blackmoon Knights looked at the city walls with shocked expressions on their faces. It was no wonder young Master Watson had only allowed them to collect meteorites for the past 2 days. He told them not to clean up the broken walls of those ruined manors. It turned out that he had already thought of that. Even though Blackmoon Town only had one sky city and a circuit of walls, it was already more magnificent than it had ever been. After all, there was only one person in the entire kingdom who could make a castle fly into the sky and use a platinum tier spell to summon lava golems to act as walls. Perhaps even the king could not do the same thing. Thousands of servants widened their eyes and opened their mouths as they felt the temperature around them rise. They subconsciously wiped the sweat on their foreheads. They were both hot and scared. Blackmoon Town had been destroyed in the battle. They thought that it would take a few months to repair it. They did not expect Watson to fix it in a day. They only needed to add more buildings within the wall. They were proud. The floating city in the sky was like a god's residence. The lava at the bottom of the wall was like hell. Gods and demons, heaven and hell, they had them all in one place. It was such a spectacle. They believed that everyone would envy them when they told people that they lived there. They feel honored to work for such a powerful young master. Let's rebuild Blackmoon town. I will summon enough rock golems for you to use. You will need to tame them and use their bodies as the foundation for your manor. You will get 10 points for every golem you tame. You will also get the right to choose your living space. Please work hard to tame more golems, everyone. I shall look forward to your performance. Watson raised his hands toward the ground on both sides. One by one, giant rock golems dug through the soil and drilled out from the ground. Their huge bodies were up to 100 meters tall. They made the humans around them look so small. The rock and lava golems that he summoned were made of magic, after all. They needed him to cast spells to maintain them continuously. He would not be able to handle the transfer of magic every day. At that moment, he was a little exhausted. However, as long as those elemental golems fell into a deep sleep, it would not matter. The sleeping elemental golems would not consume any energy. He had a very simple idea. In the past, he thought that if he built an adequately formidable city wall, he would be able to defend against external enemies. He had changed his mind. No matter how tough the city wall was, it was still lifeless. Those elemental golems were alive. The next time someone wanted to invade them, he would let the Blackmoon Knights awaken the golems to fight against the enemy together. If someone tried to destroy their city walls, they would awaken the sleeping golems instead. Perhaps they could ask those invaders how they would feel about it. Would they be scared out of their wits? Watson smiled as he thought about that. Chapter 172, Welcome to New Blackmoon Town. The weather was grey as if there were signs of snow. A group of people walked to Blackmoon Town. They were led by Christine, Morgan, and Jack. They were dressed in impressive clothes, followed by a group of guards and other manor owners. Christine, why do you think the master of Blackmoon Castle would summon us for a meeting? Morgan turned to look at Christine as he walked, and he saw the gorgeous golden armor she wore. His eyes were full of envy. What else can we do about it? A week ago, Blackmoon Castle was in a battle with the Mage Guild from Monte town, and most parts of the town were destroyed. He must have called us to ask for money to help rebuild it, Christine said. We have to pay him again. They had asked for things from us last time. When would they give us benefits? Morgan was a little dissatisfied. More than a week had passed since the battle between Blackmoon Castle and the Mage Guild. The news of Blackmoon Castle's victory had reached the manor owners. They were relieved. If Blackmoon Castle were defeated, they would not remain as allies. He did not know why Blackmoon Castle was always involved in fights with the other powerful opponents. Morgan knew of 2 recent battles. One was with the Demoness bandit gang. Previously, he was threatened by the bandit gangs. He wanted to build a good relationship with Blackmoon Castle, so he always brought precious drinks with him during his visits. They also heard that the Mage Guild had invited the most knowledgeable mage in the kingdom, the astrologer. However, the man became Watson's master, and it meant that they would need to curry more favors with him. Since the astrologer was Watson's master, perhaps the battle was only an act to harm the other manor owners like them. Otherwise, why would they be fine every time a fight broke out in Blackmoon Castle? They even made them pay for things. He had reasons to be suspicious. Morgan, if you're unhappy, you don't have to come. I can see that you're unwilling, but you've brought quite a lot of things with you. Did you say that so that we would bring fewer things with us? And so that you can keep the benefits for yourself? Christine seemed to be hinting at something as she looked behind Morgan. A few guards were carrying huge boxes in their hands. Inside those boxes were bottles of exquisite wine, and each bottle was worth more than a silver coin. Hundreds of bottles of wine were worth dozens of gold coins. It seemed like Christine had exposed Morgan's intention. He fell into silence. During the Demoness bandit gang incident, Watson had summoned them, and he had given them gold-tier armor as compensation. Perhaps he would give them something better at the next meeting. He hoped that it would cause dissatisfaction among the other manor owners. Watson would reward him if the others did not have similar quality items. He also wished for gold-tier armor. He was extremely envious of the armor on Christine's body. "Morgan, if you want to use that method to sow discord between us and cause us to be displeased with Blackmoon Castle, then forget it." Jack stroked his thick black beard, and he smiled. "I've also brought a lot of things with me. The main ones are medicinal herbs and equipment that can be used to equip monsters. I believe that young Master Watson will be satisfied." Who wants to sow discord between you two?" "I'm just saying what I'm thinking." Morgan snorted coldly. He was thinking about the more than 10 manor owners who had been invited to the castle the last time. They were 1/3 of the manor owners who had signed a contract with Blackmoon Castle. Each of them had brought a lot of things. Some of them brought rare food and meat, and some of them had brought armor and knives. One even brought more than 20 beautiful young girls for Watson. Those people were his competitors. Just as he was considering whether to send someone back to the manor to fetch some precious wine, a manor owner who was traveling with him suddenly pointed into the distance and exclaimed, "Look, Blackmoon Town's wall looks different now." "What nonsense! The walls must have crumbled after the battle, so of course, it was different from the past." Morgan wanted to say that, but when he looked in that direction, he saw an endless wall of lava that flowed in the distance. He widened his eyes, he was unable to say another word. Green smoke curled upward from the dark red wall. Outside, there was a river of lava that was several meters wide. Before he could get close, a surging heatwave hit him. Perhaps the walls were destroyed by fire magic. Christine also muttered in surprise. She felt that something was not right. The lava had not damaged the walls. Instead, the lava looked like a defensive measure. Did Blackmoon Castle design that wall? As she thought about that, she saw a crack on the wall closest to her. It revealed a huge ruby-like pupil. The wall moved forward, and a bulge appeared. Arg! The sudden change made Christine scream. "It's moving! The wall is moving!" "Christine, what are you talking about?" Jack looked at Christine suspiciously, and then he looked into the distance. "The wall is perfectly fine. Nothing happened." Christine focused her eyes and saw that the tremble and the huge eyes in the distance had disappeared. It was as if everything she had seen was an illusion. She muttered, "That is strange." She followed the other manor owners and walked to the front of Blackmoon Town. As they got closer, the city wall that was more than 10 meters high and burning with lava appeared even taller. They felt like tiny ants beneath the city wall, and they could not help but feel respect in their hearts. "That lava river is so wide. How are we going to cross it?" The lava had blocked their path, so someone asked that question. The others looked at each other, they had the same doubt. At that moment, the towering wall in front of them suddenly rose higher with a loud rumble. They stood up. The wall grew 4 limbs, and a head popped out as a huge vertical pupil split open in the middle. It moved. "I told you that the wall moved!" Christine screamed shrilly. The manor owner and the guards beside her were all in shock. They muttered, "What kind of monster is that?" Their bodies trembled. "Welcome, manor owners, to the new Blackmoon Town." After he moved the wall, Watson led 65 Blackmoon Knights and walked out slowly. He waved his hand, and a long blade condensed from thousands of ice crystals appeared. It turned into a bridge that stretched more than 10 meters long and several meters wide on top of the lava river. That move was a battle technique that he had previously fused with the Northern Wind mercenary group leader, Ron. It was called the Thousand Blade Ice Soul Blade. The blade could be assembled freely, and it could be formed into a sword. Naturally, it could also become a bridge. At that moment, the bridge formed by the ice blade spanned across the river of lava. Green smoke rose from it, and it was melting. However, it melted very slowly, so the manor owners had time to walk on it. "Welcome, manor owners." Dozens of Blackmoon knights stood behind Watson. They shouted in unison to greet the manor owners. Their voices shook the sky. "Young Master Watson, what exactly are those?" Christine's face was pale. "Come in, and let's talk first." Watson made a gesture of invitation. The group of manor owners stepped on the ice bridge and entered the castle. After they entered the castle, they saw a majestic shadow that streaked across the ground. They raised their heads and realized that it was a fortress that looked like a small hill flying across the sky. On the ground, there were buildings that looked like temples. Flowers and trees were planted outside those buildings. Occasionally, a temple would grow 2 legs and climb out from the ground. They would become giants that were 100 meters tall. They would change to another place and lie down again. The ground was full of such monsters. The manor owners realized that Blackmoon town was well maintained. They did not see a single dilapidated scene. It seemed like the town was even more luxurious than before, and they were stunned. They thought that Watson had called for them to help with construction, but it did not seem like they needed their help. So, why were they there? Was it to show them the terrifying monsters? Did they want to scare them? Chapter 173, Your life is even more exciting than a story. Young Master Watson, is it convenient for you to tell me how Blackmoon Castle became like this? Christine swallowed her saliva and suppressed her fear as she asked that question. At that moment, one of the temples had transformed into a 100-meter-tall giant that walked past her head with its thick legs. Its huge rock-made feet touched the ground and left a huge pit. Her body trembled as the temple moved. A few servants trailed behind the giant, and they carried tables, chairs, benches, and other furniture as they chased after it. As they ran, they shouted, "That rock golem is serial number 002. According to the plan, we should make it stop 1,000 meters south of Blackmoon Castle. Be careful when you control it. Don't let it go too far." Because Blackmoon Castle had become a city in the sky and flew into the sky, the original location of Blackmoon Castle was vacant. Watson was going to build a new manor and distribute it to the Blackmoon Iron Knights. Blackmoon Castle's original location was vacant because it had become a city in the sky. It had flown into the sky. Watson intended to construct new houses and distribute them to the Blackmoon Knights. The manors were arranged according to serial numbers, from 001 to 002, and so on. According to the plan, Blackmoon Castle had set up 100 serial numbers. Watson's goal was to build 100 manors in the town. Even though there were only 65 Blackmoon Iron Knights, they would recruit more in the future, so he wanted to prepare for that. The group of manor owners felt the giants pass over their heads, and their hair stood on end. Someone followed up with Christine's words and asked, "Young Master Watson, please give us an explanation." "What explanation do you want?" Watson opened his arms and introduced the surroundings enthusiastically. "As you can see, Blackmoon Town has been transformed into this current appearance after all my hard work. All the houses are mobile. They are made of super large rock golems. They are not only extremely sturdy, but they can also change into any shape according to the owner's wishes. We'll add some furniture to it, and it'll become a good house. Don't you think so? This is the first time we have mobile houses in the kingdom. Think about it, with a house like this, you can go wherever you want. Merchants can enjoy the warmth of their home while they're on the road too. Don't you think it's great? We can also use these houses in the winter. The houses at the border are not sturdy enough, and that's why we suffer heavy losses during the season. These mobile homes will help you escape when there is danger, and they can also help defend you against your enemies. It can kill any magical beasts below Platinum tier with just one punch." Watson spoke with assurance as he pointed at a few huge rock golems that went past them. "I name these houses made of rock golems as mobile fortresses. They are priced at 1,000 gold coins each. I am selling items made of Platinum tier summoned creatures for only 1,000 gold coins, aren't I conscientious?" "Yes, that's right. The manor owners nodded subconsciously, but they cursed inwardly. Why was there a need to be conscientious? Why would anyone spend 1,000 gold coins to live in the bodies of those monsters? Was that not only to suffer? What if those giant rock golems turned over and crushed them to death? However, when they thought of what Watson had described, they were tempted, indeed. At least the bandits and magical beasts would not dare to attack them if they traveled in the rock golem. Who would not run away when they saw a giant rock golem that was close to 100 meters tall? Furthermore, they could load all the goods and things they needed for their journey onto the rock golem. They would even save money on extra guards and workers. That way, they might even earn 1,000 gold coins. As he sold his points, Watson paid attention to the manor owner's facial expressions. He wanted them there for one simple reason: he wanted to start a business. He had exhausted Blackmoon Castle's resources after the battle with the astrologer. He had already set up a points system for the Blackmoon Knights to help collect the resources. However, it was not enough. Since the astrologer had gone to visit the border count a week ago, he had yet to return. Watson did not know if the astrologer had encountered any situation during his journey, but he knew that he could not count on the old man. He could only rely on those manor owners who had signed a contract with him. They were Blackmoon Castle's loyal allies. How could they not help when Blackmoon Castle was in danger? Watson wanted to sell two main products. The first was Emperor Cluck's phoenix eggs. They had accumulated about 650 phoenix eggs. Watson decided to wait until they had more eggs before he would sell them. The second product was the rock golem houses. The giant rock golem that he summoned would not consume any magical power as long as it fell into a deep sleep. Even if it had to face an enemy, the golem would be able to maintain its vitality if he injected some energy into it in advance. The people who bought the mobile homes would have to go to him regularly to maintain them. If he did not have enough magic to do it, then he would leave it to his master. Watson smiled as he rubbed his chin. He had a plan. He could tell that the manor owners in front of him were very eager for the giant rock golem house. After all, one could walk unhindered at the border with that. Therefore, he decided to throw them a bone. Actually, these mobile houses can also be rented. The price for a month is relatively low, only 10 gold coins. This is a special price for my allies, like you. They could rent one? The manor owner's eyes lit up when they heard that. I want to rent one, young Master Watson. I'll rent for a year. Morgan was the first to speak. The rental for a year was only 100 gold coins. He would save more than that for transportation and guard fees. He had been too slow to speak the last time, and Christine had robbed him of those benefits. He had already learned his lesson. If there were benefits, he would be the first to speak up. Young Master Watson, I want one too. My family runs a lot of businesses. Can I rent 2 rock golems? After Morgan had spoken, the other manor owners were unwilling to be outdone, so they began to fight over it. There's no need to fight, there are enough rock golems to go around. I will allocate them to you after we have signed the contract. Watson waved his hand. Other than the giant rock golems, I also need you to help me sell some phoenix eggs. It's also worth 1,000 gold coins each. You can't rent it, but you can pay in installments. You only need 120 gold coins as down payment, and then 120 gold coins per month for the rest of the year. He had such a good deal for them. The manor owners knew what the phoenix egg meant. It was a treasure that worth more than 1,000 gold coins. However, they needed 120 gold coins to get it, and they still had to continue to pay for it monthly. However, they were tempted, even though more than 100 gold coins were not a drop in the ocean for them. After the rock golem rental idea, Watson proposed the installment system, which made the manor owners even more excited. All of them expressed their interest in buying it. Watson smiled and clapped his hands. 3 people appeared from behind him. My name is Zeke. My name is Zenoa. The first 2 men were Watson's third brother and fourth brother. They looked proud as they said, "We're in charge of Blackmoon Castle's business trades. If there's anything you need, just let us know. I'm sure that many of you know us by now. So, let me introduce you to the person behind us. He's our fifth brother, Peter. He had been in poor health, and he was bedridden, he couldn't even walk upright. However, thanks to the phoenix egg, he can now walk, run, and fly. Hello, everyone. My name is Peter." Peter blushed when his two older brothers referred to him as the phoenix egg's wonderful proof of effect. He introduced himself in a low voice. The manor owners clicked their tongues in amazement when they saw Peter's rosy complexion. He did not look like a patient at all. They became more expectant of the phoenix egg. After Watson introduced his older brothers to the manor owners, he retreated to the side. He believed that with the modern ideas he had proposed, his two older brothers, who were proficient in business trades, would do better than him. He felt happy. Suddenly, something rustled from his side and interrupted his thoughts. He turned his head around and saw his sixth sister, Margaret. She would not usually leave her room, but she had gone to him. She was in her nightgown, and she also had a quill pen in her hand as she wrote something in her manuscript. She looked at him strangely. "Sister Margaret, what are you doing?" Watson was not familiar with that sister, but he tried to be reasonable. "You'll know when you see it. I'm writing a novel." "Writing a book in the castle would have been fine. Why did you come to me?" Was it because his sister could not go up to the castle after it had evolved into a city in the sky? Watson thought to himself, "But I gave her a phoenix egg. She should have mastered the ability to fly." He could not figure it out. Suddenly, Margaret put down the quill pen and rolled her eyes. "Do you think I want to be here? It's all your fault. I had a peaceful life, just writing my stories at home. It's all because of that dragon's roar. Do you know what it means to see a real dragon when you're sitting at home?" When Margaret spoke, she widened her eyes in anger. "It's not just the dragons. You've even taken our home to the sky. In addition, we have giants that are 100 meters tall. It makes me feel like I'm living in another world." "That is really. Watson interrupted her when he realized that she was too excited to speak. "I'm sorry, sister. It's all my fault. I've made you scared." His actions must have shocked his sister, who spent all her time at home. However, Margaret's next sentence made him freeze on the spot. "That is great." "Great? Of course, isn't that great?" Margaret held a pen and paper in her hands, and her eyes twinkled like stars. "Everything that you've experienced feels even more wonderful than the content in my book. I never thought that reality is even more wonderful than fantasy. If I write those into a book, it would definitely sell well." Margaret retracted her excitement as she stretched out a finger and poked his chest gently. "As the main culprit who brought me out of the room, you must be the one to make my book popular. Now, I have the material for the novel, but the only drawback is your name. Watson is just too ordinary. I've thought of two new names: Mordecai, Caesar, and Arthur. Which of these two names do you prefer?" "Hey, I'm talking to you." Watson looked at the sky speechlessly. He did not expect his sister to come out because of that. She was also a chatterbox. He had a feeling that the future would be very troublesome for him. Chapter 174, Winter is Here. At the fairy castle, the border count's mansion. "Master Antonio, I've prepared the equipment and tools that you wanted: 50 gold tier weapons and armor, 500 silver tier equipment, 10 gold tier recovery potions, and 100 silver tier potions, a total of 710 items, which are worth more than 200,000 gold coins." They were in a pavilion. The border count clapped his hands and said, "Nightingale, bring the things for Antonio here." "Yes, Lord Sylvan." The petite girl with black hair and blue eyes behind Sylvan answered respectfully. She teleported and disappeared from view. When she reappeared, there were many golden treasure chests at her feet. There were 7 chests, each half the height of a man. Master Antonio, these things are equivalent to half of my family's property. Do you want to count them? Sylvan's platinum hair fluttered in the wind as he looked at the flower bed not far from the pavilion. An old man stood in front of the flower bed. He seemed to admire the flowers that had bloomed. It was winter, but the flowers were still in full bloom. When he heard Sylvan's words, the old man reached out and picked the most vibrant flower from the flower bed. He turned around and said, "Sylvan, I'm not worried about your work. There's no need to check it. It looks like most of the flowers in your garden are Celius that are unique to the southern elves' forest, and they grow near the spring of life. Can you give me some to make the life potion?" "Of course," Sylvan replied politely. No one knew what was in his mind, but his eyes flashed. "Why do you need a life potion? Is it for your new disciple? I heard that you took Blackmoon Castle's 8th child, Watson, as your disciple." The life potion was a silver-tier potion that could replenish one's lost vitality. The astrologer planned to take it back and make some potions to help Watson practice the time-stripping spell. He nodded when he heard Sylvan's words. "I did not expect you to hear about this already." "Yes, that's right, Watson is my disciple." It seemed like Watson had told people to spread the news about their master-apprentice relationship. Watson would not have been idle for the past week, and Sylvan controlled the border, so of course, he would have heard of that news. "Sylvan, Watson is your junior brother, which means your family is my disciple, such fate. Don't you have more things to give me?" "Family? Are you talking about Watson and me?" Sylvan raised his eyebrows at the astrologer's inquiry. He did not know why he said that. Watson and him, they had used each other. Watson was almost destroyed because of his battle with the manor owner's allied forces. It would be good enough if he did not hate the border count, let alone be his family. Subconsciously, Sylvan looked at Nightingale, who was beside him. Did something happen between Nightingale and Watson? Was that why the astrologer said that? Nightingale, who had served as his personal bodyguard for many years, quickly grasped what he meant. She shook her head, indicating that she had nothing to do with the situation. Sylvan was about to inquire again when she heard the astrologer say, "Sylvan, you don't have to act. I already know that Watson is your illegitimate child. Tell me, who did you have Watson with?" "An illegitimate child? Why aren't you saying anything, Sylvan? Is Watson the son that you secretly had with Edward's wife? I can't control your private affairs, but if you did cuckold another man, then you have gone too far. After all, Edward is a member of the Saint Laurent family. Even if he isn't, it's not right for you to mess with another man's wife. Anyway, I have bothered you for a week now, I think it's time for me to head home. Will you tell me the truth before I go?" The astrologer had spent a long time in the border count's mansion. On the one hand, he was hiding from Watson, afraid that he would be pestered to teach the boy magic again. On the other hand, he wanted to learn more about Sylvan and Watson's relationship. When he arrived, he discovered that Sylvan had not married anyone. The mates had no idea if Sylvan even had a lover. He was not surprised. After all, Watson was an illegitimate child. If everyone knew about Watson and Sylvan's relationship, he would not be an illegitimate child. He had initially intended to let Sylvan confess to him. Unfortunately, he did not say anything, so the astrologer took the initiative to inquire about it. "Master, did Watson say that to you?" Sylvan had a strange look on his face. He thought that Watson was very bold. He had been filled with rage because of his sister. How could he marry before exacting his revenge on the king? How could he even consider marrying, let alone having children? The astrologer was his most respected teacher, he had taught him most of his magic. When he and his sister, Avril, first arrived at the Holy Dragon Kingdom, many people discriminated against them because of their elven ancestry. Only the astrologer valued his talent, and he even took him as his disciple and eventually made him the strongest mage in the kingdom. He would not be who he is now if it were not for the astrologer. He was confident that his teacher would not deceive him. Watson must have made that up. Perhaps Watson was unsatisfied with how he orchestrated the conflict between Blackmoon Castle and the manor owner's allied forces, so he invented such a tale to brand him as a villain. Was he not afraid that I would punish him since I am the border count? No, from all the rumors, he knew Watson was an intelligent person who would not have done such a thing to incite enmity for no reason. Sylvan pondered about that as he glanced at the astrologer. Perhaps Watson knew that the astrologer would be so brazen. Watson's claim to be his illegitimate kid was not entirely detrimental to him. He had always suspected that Blackmoon Castle was the king's spy. Watson would be bound to his favor if he became his illegitimate kid. He would not only be able to interact with the king, and he would also be regarded as an adversary by the king. After careful consideration, allowing Watson to become his child might not have been such a bad idea. During that week, he learned that Watson had become the astrologer's disciple and that Blackmoon Castle had a real dragon, despite the fact that he had not been able to handle such a formidable beast. Nightingale had wanted him to compensate and apologize to Watson for manipulating the Blackmoon Castle into a battle with the manor owner's allied forces. He had declined because of his pride, but he regretted that decision. Blackmoon Castle had developed much faster than he had anticipated. It would have been preferable if he agreed to that request back then. Of course, it was already too late. Watson's rumor was a gesture of goodwill toward him. The boy was still young, but it seemed like he was very adept at scheming that it might affect his cause of vengeance. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that Watson was exceptional. Sylvan nodded. I have nothing to hide because you have already uncovered it, Master. Watson is my child, indeed. I did not wrong anyone, but Watson's mother's identity was a unique one. Please accept my apologies as I can't tell you right now. Watson's mother's identity was unique, of course, because she did not exist at all. You finally admitted it. The astrologer looked like he did not think it was a bad thing. It seemed like Blackmoon Castle's progress was very smooth, and it had a lot to do with Sylvan. The border count might have given him 700 items and said that those were half of his assets, but the astrologer was not a fool. He knew that Sylvan must have had a plan. Sylvan smiled and waved his hand. Nightingale, get another 500 pieces of silver-tier equipment for Master Antonio. He cursed inwardly. Watson must have received the astrologer's tacit approval when he said that he was the border count's illegitimate son. Otherwise, why would his master come to him for an explanation? He might as well go along with it. Why did he have to figure that out by himself? Why did he have to go through so much trouble? Sylvan turned his head, a little disgruntled, and saw that Nightingale was still in a stupor. He frowned and said, Nightingale, I told you to get the armor. Why are you still here? Ah, I'm sorry, Lord Sylvan. Nightingale snapped back to her senses as if she had just woken up from a dream. Sylvan's words had shocked her. She had been in Fairy Castle for many years, and that was the first time she had heard that Lord Sylvan had a child. Perhaps she was not sent to Blackmoon Castle to test Watson but to protect him. She had misunderstood Lord Sylvan. She blushed when she recalled how she had advised Lord Sylvan to treat Blackmoon Castle better. They were father and son, so they must have a close relationship. They did not need an outsider like her to get involved in that matter. It was no wonder Lord Sylvan had ignored her suggestions at that time. She wanted to know when Sylvan had a child, but the astrologer was still there. She could not ask the question because it was inappropriate, so she had to depart quietly. His right hand was encrusted with rings. He removed the rings from his index and middle fingers and set them on the table in front of him. These are my platinum tier tools, the Song of the Nibelungs, there are 10 of them. They can use a magical effect to trigger the heroic epic skill and temporarily improve one's combat aura. You gave them to me, Master, and now, I will give Watson 2 of them. What do you think, Master? Sylvan knew that Watson's value was not only in himself but also in the astrologer. He wanted to express his goodwill toward the astrologer. He was willing to share his platinum-tier equipment. The astrologer curled his lips when he heard those words. 2 is too little. The Song of the Nibelungs is only equivalent to an ordinary gold-tier item. If you want to give them, then hand over all the rings. The astrologer's thoughts were very simple. He had given his platinum-tier item, the Sun and Moon Divine Staff, to Watson. He had even imparted many precious spells. One could say that he had spent a lot on Watson. As his father, Sylvan would have to give more to Watson so that the astrologer would feel better about it. But, Master, the rings are a bit. Sylvan was dumbfounded. He thought he had acted very generously, but why did he seem like a miser in front of the astrologer? One should know that it pained him to part with those 2 rings. However, the two did not realize that they were not even on the same page since the start of the conversation. Watson would grin from ear to ear if he knew that the two had fought and schemed because of a beautiful misunderstanding that caused them to argue about what they should give to Blackmoon Castle. Just as Sylvan was ready to bargain, Nightingale, who had just left, returned with a worried expression on her face. She did not have a box on her person. Instead, she yelled, "Oh, no! Lord Sylvan, the sky has changed. It is now snowing heavily, and there's a group of magical beasts. It looked like they had run out of the misty forest and are now attacking our walls. Is it winter already?" "What?" As he stared up at the sky, the astrologer's face became solemn. Sylvan had lost interest in the rings. He rose from his seat abruptly and glanced upward. The sun in the sky had turned blood red as it lost its color. The sky was engulfed in falling snow. Chapter 175, Fuse the Magical Beasts for Fear of Trouble. Snowflakes began to fall from the dark sky in Blackmoon Town. The snow was falling heavily, and soon, the ground was blanketed in a layer of silver-white dust. Even the color of the lava at the walls was dimmed. That was the border's second snowfall, and it arrived later than expected. "Thank you, Manor Lords, for your visit to Blackmoon Castle today. You are welcome to come again next time." Watson stood outside the lava golem wall. He flicked the snowflakes that had covered his shoulders as he waved at the manor owners. There were dozens of manor owners and guards. Their faces were red, and their bodies reeked of alcohol. After they were done with their discussion with Watson's brothers, Watson had brought them to the city in the sky for a feast. The Golden Flash had been tasked with taking the manor owners to the castle. When the manor owners saw the more than 100-meter-long dragon spread its wings, their knees nearly buckled. They could not even stand steadily. Watson had to reassure them that they would be fine before they dared to climb onto the Golden Flash's body. They were genuinely terrified at first, but they were no longer terrified when the Golden Flash flew upward. Instead, they grew ecstatic. "I can tell everyone that I have ridden a dragon," they said. They felt fantastic after the dragon ride. The platinum-tier magical beast was a legendary dragon. They might only get that one chance to ride it in their lifetime. After that, things became much simpler. The manor owners, who were still in the mood to enjoy the show, were given a tour of the city in the sky by Watson. They erupted in exclamations. That was the first time they had seen a city floating in the sky, especially when they stood near the city's edge. They could also see clusters of flowers, plants, and trees. A white cloud was drifting in the snow right in front of them. They were able to reach out and touch the snow. When they looked down, everything on the ground had turned into microscopic black specks. It was as if they had evolved into gods that looked down on other gods. Some manor owners even inquired if they could remain there for 2 days. They were willing to pay for it. Compared to that kind of scenery, the other beautiful mountains and rivers in the kingdom appeared dull and uninteresting. Watson had agreed to those manor owners' suggestions. After he discussed it with his brothers, he decided to set the price of a one-day stay in the city in the sky at 1 gold coin. The manor owners drank a lot of wine at the feast and signed a new trade deal with Zeke and Zenoa. They would transfer resources to Blackmoon Castle so that Watson would fuse them to increase the quality. They would divide it as per the agreed 3:7 dividend ratio, and they wanted to start the implementation right away. Watson had wanted to wait until winter before he would start the trade. However, he decided not to wait. Those people would not need the rock golems if they did not need to be afraid of the magical beasts. It was better to tell them that they could use it to avoid the magical beasts during the winter. Since they lacked resources, they could raise their prices appropriately, which would allow them to earn more. So, Watson was sent the manor owners to the nearest town, Monte town, to stock up on supplies. Zeke, Zenoa, and Peter accompanied them. They would make sure that the manor owners did not pocket any of their own money during the transaction. Almost all of the manor owners had rented the giant rock golem to escort them to Monte town. Each of them also bought 15 phoenix eggs, and they would pay for them in installments. They also brought 35 phoenix eggs with them to Monte town so that they could spread the message. There were only 600 phoenix eggs left in Blackmoon Castle. On that day, Blackmoon Castle gained a few thousand gold coins from the rental and the gifts presented by the manor owners. Watson did not appear to be overjoyed because that amount was too insignificant to him. When the foreign trade had stabilized, he would make tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of gold coins per day. What were a few thousand gold coins? Young Master Watson, please rest assured. We will protect the other young masters on this trip. Martin, the former Mage Guild elder, was covered in snow. He did not even have time to wipe it off. Instead, he put on a flattering smile in front of Watson. The few remaining elders stood beside him. Anna was also there. She muttered softly, "He made me the new Mage Guild president, am I really qualified for the job?" They were also traveling to Monte town. Since they had defeated the Mage Guild, Watson was willing to give Anna the opportunity to be the new president and take over the Mage Guild. Ron, the Northwind mercenary group leader, was there as well. Those two factions were the most significant forces in Monte town. If Blackmoon Castle took control of them, then half of Monte town would be in Watson's pocket. He was not content with simply rebuilding Blackmoon Castle. He wanted to merge with Monte town and build the largest and most luxurious city at the border. At that moment, Ron stood beside Peter. He had a smile on his face. "Young Master Peter, I heard that you were not in good health just recently. Why don't you ride with me? It's snowing, and my ice-field wolf form excels in traveling in such weather. I can run faster and steadier than a rock golem." That made Peter feel very awkward. Shameless. The few Mage Guild elders glanced at Ron and snorted coldly. The dignified Northwind mercenary group leader had become so subservient. Did he have any backbone? With that thought in their mind, they did not want to be outdone. They used even more flattering smiles to face Watson's brothers. "I'm a silver tier mage. I can use magic to bring you flying, young masters. Choose me, I'm the most powerful in flying spells in the entire Mage Guild." They continued to flatter him because Watson had agreed to free them from their slave status if they performed well during that trip. They could be part of Blackmoon Castle, and they might even get to control Monte town as they did in the past. They had no choice but to compromise for the sake of those benefits. "We're leaving now, Watson. Take good care of our family while you're in Blackmoon Castle." Before they left, the three brothers hugged Watson reluctantly as they bade him goodbye. Watson was the youngest in the family, but they treated him as their core after they had been through so many experiences. The boy was even more trustworthy than their father, who was unreliable most of the time. "Don't worry, I will take good care of our family. My brothers, be careful while you're on the road." Watson waved his hand reluctantly as he watched his brothers and the rest of the men leave Blackmoon town with more than 10 giant rock golems as their escort. A reunion was always shorter than the period of separation. Watson took a deep breath. His brothers had gone to fulfill their tasks. He would have to continue with his plans for Blackmoon Castle's future development. Maybe I should give the remaining phoenix eggs to my outstanding subordinates. There were thousands of workers in Blackmoon Castle, he would have to choose a few for some preferential treatment. Since the city hovered in the sky, it would not be easy for those people to get up to the castle. Of course, unless they took phoenix eggs and grew wings. Just as he thought about how to distribute those eggs, his sixth sister, Margaret, appeared beside him. Watson wept as he bid farewell to his family because he knew that his family was about to embark on a journey filled with thorns and hardships. There were bandits and magical beasts along the way, but they would not back down. The bandit gangs had killed tens of thousands of people, and then there was also the magical dragon. Their blood-stained journey must be continued for a brighter future. Oh, the next chapter is out, and it's more interesting than I thought. However, the name Watson is too boring. Might as well call him Arthur or Mordecai Caesar. Margaret stood next to Watson as she wrote rapidly, it left him dumbfounded. Thorns and hardships? Bandit gangs that killed more than 10,000 people? Magical dragon? None of those are true. Our brothers are ordinary businessmen. Sister Margaret, even if you want to make up a story, you should at least follow some logic, right? Since you already know that it's a story, of course, it should be filled with some drama. What's wrong with some exaggeration? Margaret shook the snow-soaked manuscript, puffed out her chest, and pointed into the distance. And who says there aren't magical beasts? It's almost winter. Look at the heavy snow, perhaps the magical beasts from the misty forest will appear soon. Roar! A series of beastly roars erupted from a distance as if echoing Margaret's comments. Watson looked over with a shocked expression. A layer of black lines had appeared in the distance, connecting to the horizon, and it rushed toward them. There were tens of thousands of roaring magical beasts, and their bodies were covered in snow. Some were trampled to their deaths by other larger magical beasts before they could reach them. Fresh blood dyed the ground red. Those magical beasts had escaped from the misty forest. When they appeared, the sun in the sky also changed color. It went from incandescent white to a devilish dark red, and the buildings on the ground were pulled into longer silhouettes. The wind and snow appeared to have intensified. The sun had turned red, and the snow continued to fall. That was the sign of winter, at least that was what Watson remembered. Has winter finally come? Sixth sister, you've jinxed us. Watson frowned. He glanced at Margaret, who was also a little surprised, and spread the golden combat aura wings on his back as he flew into the sky. Looks like winter is here, what a coincidence. I had just replenished those giant rock golems' magic, and it would have lasted them a month. If they exhausted their power in fighting those magical beasts, then I would have to replenish them again. That's too troublesome. I might as well fuse those magical beasts. System, activate fusion. Watson was like a god as he activated the system to fuse those magical beasts within Blackmoon Castle's vicinity. Waves of light flickered as tens of thousands of rays fused. In just an instant, the number of magical beasts had been reduced by half. The remaining ones became larger and more ferocious. However, those stronger magical beasts no longer roared. Instead, they knelt on the ground and bowed their heads toward Watson as if they were paying respects to their emperor. Chapter 176, Monte Town's Defense. Congratulations, Master, for successfully fusing all the magical beasts. You have obtained 12,000 bronze-tier magical beasts and 4,000 silver-tier magical beasts. The sound of a system notification rang in his ears. Watson looked at the magical beasts that worshipped him with a calm expression. Then, he said, Manor Lords, listen to me. I have a mission for you. Hunt as many magical beasts as you can and bring them to Blackmoon Castle. In return, I'll give you the first batch of magical beasts. You can take them back to guard your manor, or you can sell them in Monte Town. Watson felt no pangs of regret after unleashing over 10,000 magical beasts because those beasts were the first to run out of the misty forest. The number would only grow due to the constant snowfall. He could fuse them easily and earn hundreds of times more than that. He did not want those magical beasts to fight with the giant rock golems, so he fused them. However, it was not only for that reason, he was not one to do useless things. The magical beasts were the third thing that he wanted to launch after the phoenix eggs and the giant rock golems. Compared to the first two items, the fused magical beasts were derived from natural elements. The fusion system did not consume any of his magic power, and that was a profitable business. Initially, he planned to give the magical beast business to the manor owners after the winter. However, since winter had already arrived, he took advantage of the situation. He would focus on those three businesses and expand the other trades gradually. That was his preliminary plan for winter. He was confident that he could boost Blackmoon Castle's strength by several levels in 3 months. "Thank you, young Master Watson." All the manor owners looked at each other and thanked him in unison. Norton trailed behind the manor owners and thanked him as well. He looked at the magical beasts around him, and his fat body trembled. Many magical beasts around him did not recognize, but there were also many creatures that he knew. For example, there was a huge snow-white bear that was about 5 meters tall with blood-red claws and spiral-shaped patterns on its hands. There were also storm eagles that were more than 10 meters wide when they spread their wings. Those magical beasts were the ones that he had seen when he followed Watson to the Misty Forest. Watson had brought some of the manor owners to the Misty Forest because he had wanted to kill the Demoness bandit gang. He was fortunate enough to witness it when Watson fused magical beasts then. That was the second time. He was protected by a huge rock golem. Even though he knew that those magical beasts would listen to Watson after he fused them, he was still fearful. He was a timid individual with little talent. His farm's major commodity was cheap milk, which could not be compared to other manor owners. He was thankful that Watson did not hate him, which enabled him to ally with Blackmoon Castle. Many manor owners shared his beliefs. They were still concerned when they realized it was finally winter, and tens of thousands of magical beasts charged at them. They did not expect those magical beasts would come to Blackmoon Town, and Watson immediately domesticated them. More importantly, Watson gave them those magical monsters after he fused them. Each manor could get about 1,000 magical beasts, and that was a huge fortune. They had been worried about helping Blackmoon Castle expand its foreign trade at that time. What would they do if it were suddenly winter? They were not afraid because they had giant rock golems, but what about their manors? Who knew what would happen if they came across a huge bunch of magical beasts? They might have to burn down their own manor if they wanted to get any benefit from Blackmoon Castle. It was not worth it. Then, Watson told them not to be afraid as Blackmoon Castle had already thought of a way out for them. How generous and thoughtful of him! They sighed from the bottom of their hearts. It felt great to be Watson's business partner. That incident stunned not only the manor owners but also Watson's 3 brothers. Winter is a disaster for many but a blessing for Watson. I believe Blackmoon Castle will have many more assets after winter is over. Zeke stroked the back of his neck. His eyes glowed as he looked about at the magical beasts. In his eyes, those were not magical beasts but moving mountains of gold. Do you have any questions? If not, please go on your way. Watson waved his hand, and the manor owners humbly bowed to him. Then they turned around and went back to Monte town. They were no longer terrified. Instead, their expressions were filled with excitement and a fighting spirit. In the previous winter, magical beasts were a complicated problem that they could not solve. Swarms of magical beasts would destroy the fields and slaughter all living things. However, both the prey and the hunter's identities had shifted. Those magical beasts had become the prey. They could not wait to capture more of them so that they could hand them over to Blackmoon Castle in exchange for money. Blackmoon Castle had informed more than a dozen manor owners of the platinum-tier giant rock golems and swarms of magical monsters. The news swiftly expanded to the neighboring manors, and they also formed an agreement with Blackmoon Castle. The remaining manors also decided to become partners, and they hurriedly dispatched personnel to rent the giant rock golems and begged Watson to assist them in fusing some magical beasts. Some manor owners who had never signed a contract with Blackmoon Castle in the past were stirred by the news and were willing to send personnel to the castle. However, most of those manors were quite a distance away from Blackmoon Castle, and the magical beasts wreaked havoc on them while they were on their way over, so it would take some time before they reached Blackmoon Castle. Time passed in a flash. 2 days passed. Time flew by in an instant. 2 days had passed. At the City Hall in Monte Town. City Hall was an office set up by the kingdom. Monte Town was one of the only 4 towns on the border. There were dozens of ordinary office workers in the City Hall. A records officer was responsible for recording the happenings in Monte Town every year for the kingdom. There was also a finance official who managed the town's taxes, plus a city defense official and the mayor. Geraint was Monte Town's mayor. He was sitting in the highest level office in the City Hall at the time. He looked concerned. Geraint's full name was Geraint Ptolemy. He belonged to the Ptolemy family branch of the illustrious Grand Duke family in the Holy Dragon Kingdom. He became mayor of Monte Town when he was about 30 years old, thanks to the protection of his ancestors. Compared to the finance officer and records officer, who were both in their 50s and 60s, he seemed relatively young and promising. However, winter had just arrived, and the magical beasts had shattered Monte Town's east gate. More than 100 magical beasts had fled into the city, 10 people were bitten, and 3 died tragically. Trash. A bunch of trash. Especially those from the city defense force. What did they do? Geraint threw the stack of documents that he had been given over onto the table, enraged. His light golden wavy hair swayed in anger. The Ptolemy family established itself in the Holy Dragon Kingdom's royal city. He was not in Monte Town because his family did not like him. On the contrary, they admired his abilities. That was why they made him the mayor. When his 10-year term ended, the Ptolemy family would give him a position as a minister. It was an unspoken rule for the nobles to send their family members out to get some experience and then return to be appointed to key positions. Almost all the nobles did that. Gerland was not dissatisfied with the family's arrangements, but Monte Town was at the border, so it was a little out of the way. Fortunately, there was not much work, and he had plenty of free time every day. The only thing he did not like about the winter was the cold weather. That damned border. For some reason, many magical beasts would appear every winter. He would be overwhelmed every time he had to fight those magical beasts. He would not eat or sleep well, he would always be afraid that more people would die because of the magical beasts. As a result, his own performance would suffer. Just as he finished reading the documents, there was an anxious knock on the door. A guard in armor barged into the room. "Something bad has happened, Mayor. The hole that the magical beasts caused at the east gate has been torn open by a few powerful silver-tier magical beasts. More than 200 magical beasts had managed to get into town. The person in charge of repairing the city wall is also dead." "What?" Geraint felt dizzy and almost fell to the ground. He took a deep breath and calmed down. He stood up and said, "I can't count on the city defense force anymore. Where are the people from the Mage Guild and the mercenaries in the city? Get them now." The Mage Guild and the mercenaries were actually stronger than the city defense force, particularly the Northwind mercenary group leader. The leader, Ron, was a gold-tier expert similar to the Mage Guild president, Audrey. Winter in Monte Town was a breeze because they were there. Mayor Geraint, the Mage Guild, and the Northwind mercenary group are away in a crusade against Blackmoon Castle. They haven't come back yet. Why must it be now? Geraint's headache got worse. He walked toward the wall and took the long sword on the wall. "Take me to the damaged city wall first." He gave the order for the guards to lead the way. He gathered a group of guards and exited the city hall, headed straight for Monte Town's east gate. He noticed numerous people on the street were chased and bitten by magical monsters. The screams were deafening, and he saw soldiers fighting the magical beasts in groups of 2s and 3s. Sharp swords pierced some of the beasts, and additional ones jumped on the guards and smashed their heads. Monte town was in a dreadful state. Geraint could not take it, so he quickened his pace and arrived at the east gate's wall. As he looked down, he almost fell from the top of the city wall. A few monstrous orangutans with enormous wings on their backs led a troop of thousands of magical beasts. They struck the city wall fiercely. Those monstrous orangutans had pure white fur and 6 strong arms. They were nearly 10 meters tall. They picked up large rocks and threw them at the city wall. Cracks appeared on the wall. It's a peak silver-tier magical beast, 6-armed Herculean demonic ape. There are 3 of them. They would usually only appear during the end of winter. Why would it appear now? Chapter 177, Hope has arrived. Outside Monte town's east gate. The 6-armed Herculean ape's arms, which were several meters thick, quickly pulled out a large piece of soil from the ground and rubbed it between its palms a few times. A layer of snow-white light coated the soil's surface, and a white ice ball pinched into the shape of a small hill was hurled fiercely toward the city wall in Geraint's direction. The massive white solid ice streaked across a lovely parabola, leaving a long trail of ice mist in the air. The 6-armed Herculean ape's hallmark skill was a silver-tier spell, a huge ice throw. Whatever it caught would be transformed into massive ice the size of a small mountain. At the same moment, it carried ice elemental damage. The enormous ice would explode after the encounter, scattering ice spears with immense penetrative power. Quick, protect the mayor. 5 of the dozens of soldiers around Geraint walked forward and lifted their bronze shields, attempting to deflect the attack. Bang! The monster ape's giant ice block slammed onto the shield with a muted sound. The 2 shields in the center were crushed and caved in, they became scrap metal. The 2 guards behind the shields were crushed into mincemeat before they could even scream. Fresh blood splattered all over Geraint's body, it dyed his gorgeous noble attire red. After that, the ice exploded. Shattered ice and rocks shot out like machine guns, knocking down the remaining 3 guards. Bowl-sized wounds appeared on their bodies, they covered their arms and thighs. They looked quite miserable. Roar! One of the 6-armed Herculean apes slapped its chest, it revealed a burst of strange human-like laughter. Its huge scarlet eyes flashed with mockery. Is it mocking us? Geraint wiped the blood on his cheeks with a handkerchief, his eyes were wide open. He could hear the scorn in the magical beast's laughter that pierced their ears. Why did it feel like the magical beasts that year were different from the usual ones? Those beasts would usually rely on their own strength to rampage around the city during the winter. Even if they were injured, they would not retreat. The 6-armed Herculean apes could have flown into the city with their wings. However, they hid away and created that massive block of ice. It did not seem like they wanted to enter the town at all. They stood with their other magical beasts as they touched their sharp claws and fangs, saliva dripped from the corners of their lips. They were obviously starving, but they did not advance. It was as if they were waiting for the moment when the city wall was breached. It was as if those magical beasts had suddenly gained human intelligence. Release the arrows quickly. Geraint's heart was filled with dread. He did not know if those beasts had grown smarter after their multiple failed attempts to breach the city gates every winter. Perhaps they could no longer regard those beasts as simple beasts. Damn it! Monte Town doesn't have any powerful elite currently. Why must the magical beasts attack now? The humans were no match for the formidable magical beasts that were the same level as them. The Mage Guild and the Northwind Mercenary Group were not there, they only had the city defense force, which was not enough to defend against those magical beasts. Whoosh! 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 Almost simultaneously with his words, a hail of arrows descended from the top of the city wall, they were headed toward the group of magical beasts. There were 1,000 soldiers on top of the city wall, and there was no shortage of bronze and silver tier elites, who made up 1/10 of the total number of soldiers. The thousands of arrows wrapped in combat aura resembled locusts. They created stunning arcs in the sky and shook people to their core. However, they were of no use. Before the arrows were fired, one of the 6 armed Herculean apes, who seemed to be the leader of the pack, roared. It was a signal for the beasts to flee. The magical beasts moved swiftly. They retreated hundreds of meters until they were about 1,000 meters from the top of the city wall. Most of the arrows could not reach that distance, so the magical beasts managed to dodge them easily. The rest landed on the bodies of magical beasts with a thick outer skin. After the rain of arrows had stopped, the 6-armed Herculean ape led the magical beasts toward the wall again. The mocking laughter that they heard when it slapped its chest grew increasingly intense. "Release the arrows! What are you waiting for? Haven't you eaten?" Geraint yelled angrily at the astonished troops next to him. Those warriors had never seen anything like that intelligent magical beast. They were all taken aback. Even Geraint had never seen anything like that, let alone the soldiers. They had to destroy those beasts, otherwise, they would be eaten. The troops launched wave after wave of arrows into the air. The magical beasts, however, would flee as the soldiers drew their bows and knocked their arrows. When they took the shot, the magical beasts would return to the front of the city wall and hurl massive rocks at it to destroy it. The arrows did not even injure those beasts. However, hundreds of soldiers were killed by the massive ice-covered rocks. More than 10 minutes later, the soldiers from the city defense force looked sorrowful. They could not injure the magical beasts because they found a way to circumvent that. However, the soldiers did not have the same luck, and they still had to protect the town. If they retreated, their families would die. If they did not retreat, they would die. No one knew who was the first person to put down their bow and arrows, but many others followed suit. Despair spread like an infection. It engulfed the entire army. "Mayor Geraint, it's too dangerous here. Let's go back to the city hall to pack our things and leave immediately. I reckon that Monte town will fall soon. We should escape to the border count's territory and ask for his help." A personal guard approached Geraint and tried to persuade him. "I am not going anywhere. If I leave, the town will be destroyed." Geraint clenched his teeth and drew his sword from his waist. His family might have sent him there, but he was not a cold-blooded person. He would never abandon the lives of hundreds of thousands of citizens in Monte town. "You won't be able to save anyone if you don't leave." The guard's lips moved, but he did not say it out loud because he saw a bronze-tier warrior covered in blood running toward him at full speed. "Mayor Geraint, most of the mercenary groups in the city and the mages from the Mage Guild have just evacuated. They claimed that they could not make a decision without their leader, so they chose to leave. We should stop them. Those bastards. They usually eat and drink well in Monte town. Who provided them with a place to live? Who allowed them to enjoy the others' respect for them? And they want to withdraw now." Geraint's eyes reddened. His face was pale, yet it was hardly the most depressing thing about him. "Report. Mayor Geraint, the magical beasts have breached the west gate. The city defense forces commander, the man responsible for guarding the gate, has died in battle. More than 1,000 magical beasts have charged into Monte town. Something terrible has happened, Mayor. A group of flying magical beasts has appeared in the south. According to our observations, the 10 magical beasts in the lead are silver-tier storm eagles. And a large hole has opened up in the city wall in the north." The soldiers sent gloomy reports, one by one. The majority of the soldiers atop the city wall had intended to flee. They stepped back and yelled, "It is all over. My daughter is still in the city. She is a 10-year-old girl." Most of them were crying. They did not want to fight anymore, they would die anyway. They wanted to die with their families. Geraint drew the long sword from his waist. He was about to say that he could not leave because of the chaos around him. However, a small mountain of ice shot at him and smashed into his side. It left a few meters wide crack in the city wall. It also caused the more than 10-meter wide surrounding wall to collapse. Crack! The city wall finally gave way after sustaining constant bombardment from a few silver-tier magical beasts. The East Gate was Monte town's last line of defense, but it had also been breached. Roar! A group of magical beasts, led by the six-armed Herculean ape, roared as they charged toward Monte town. They were ready for their meal. As he slumped to the ground, Gerent's face was covered in blood. The blast had broken the bronze-tier longsword in his hand. His mind went blank, and he could not hear anything. However, he heard some vague sentences. Protect the mayor, at least let him live. Then, he heard more roars from the side. He sighed and closed his eyes. It appeared that Monte town was doomed to become a purgatory that day. The Northwind mercenary group and the Mage Guild were not there, and his soldiers could no longer fight. He did not know who else could help them at that moment. Gerent prayed that someone could come to their aid. At that moment, boom! A muffled thunder-like sound was heard. The guards' words and magical beasts' roars had stopped. Then, a majestic shadow descended from the sky and blocked the light on Gerard's face. He subconsciously opened his eyes and witnessed a scene that he would never forget for the rest of his life. A rock golem 10 times the height of the city wall stood outside the East Gate. Its two arms that resembled drill bits were inserted into the ground. All the magical beasts within a several hundred-meter radius were sent flying. Those beasts had been very arrogant just a moment before, but that had all changed. They were fearful. Even the soldiers were dumbfounded, they could not speak. Gerent was frozen on the spot because of the shock. It seemed like heaven had heard his prayers, hope had finally come. Chapter 178, Human Deceptive Behavior. The giant rock golem stood outside Monte town's East Gate, like a god that had descended from heaven. All the magical beasts within a few hundred meters were sent flying backward. Then, it pulled its drill-shaped thick arm and slammed it downward. More than 10 magical beasts that could not dodge in time were crushed into meat paste. The remaining magical beasts retreated in panic. The six-armed Herculean ape led them away. The ape stared at the giant rock golem in shock and bewilderment. It grabbed some soil from the ground, rubbed it a few times, and turned it into massive ice before it threw it at the giant rock golem. The giant ice streaked across the sky like a meteor and crashed into the giant rock golem. With a muffled bang, a yellow light flashed on its body. There was not a single scratch on it, but it stopped for a moment. The demonic ape began to roar when it realized that its attack was ineffective. The panic in its eyes gradually faded away before it spread its wings and retreated again. As it withdrew, it used the giant ice spell to attack the giant rock golem again. Even though the giant rock golem was a platinum tier summoned creature with astonishing attack power, its movement was slow, and it only had simple intelligence. It could not block the ape's attack effectively. The giant ape looked proud, as if it did not think much of the rock golem. As it walked beside the giant rock golem, the monstrous ape raised its hand and prepared to call another giant ice. However, at that moment, a huge claw rested on its shoulder and pressed down on it. It turned its head. It was a 10-meter-long ice-filled wolf, and it stood behind the ape. The wolf stared at the ape with a cold gaze as its snow-white fur fluttered in the wind. It had a powerful aura. Roar! The demonic ape roared furiously. 2 more apes rushed forward from behind and surrounded the ice-filled wolf. Magical beasts were territorial, and those that had run out of the misty forest were carnivorous beasts. The 3-headed demonic ape had led them. Then, the ice-filled wolf appeared, and it looked like it had wanted to fight for their territory. How could they endure it? The 3-headed demonic ape did not hesitate, it immediately stretched out its arms. Its 6 arms were covered with a layer of hard ice. The ice covering their fists was exceptionally thick and heavy. It made their fists look like giant hammers. The 18 arms turned into indistinct phantoms, they smashed on the ice field like demonic wolves. That was another of its skills, the silver-tier chaotic cloak hammer technique. Its chaotic attacks contained violent power, each was heavier than the previous one. Even a steel plate would shatter under its attack. The air compressed into an arc before the attack landed, and shallow pits appeared on the ground as snowflakes fluttered in the sky. That combination drowned the ice-field wolf's figure. Arg! Someone on the city wall yelled out in surprise. They had not even recovered when they saw the giant rock golem when they saw the fight between those beasts. They were shocked. That year's magical beasts were too strange, they seemed smart enough to break into the city, so why did they kill each other then? The doubts in their hearts were quickly answered. They heard a human voice from the snow. Gold tier fighting technique snowfall breathing cannon. Then, a snow-white light pierced through the fog and turned into a light pillar that was more than 10 meters long. It swept across the surroundings, it even cut off a layer of the ground as it pierced through the chest of the three-headed six-armed Herculean ape. The light pillar fell, and the fog dissipated. The ice-field wolf walked out from a pile of snow. Its body squirmed and shrank before it turned into a strong man in armor. He looked tough. He raised his foot and stepped on the chest of a six-armed Herculean ape that laid on the ground and wailed in pain. He reached out and stroked its hair as he howled into the sky. This feels great. I have seen so many magical beasts in Blackmoon Castle for the past few days, making me depressed. Now, I feel strong. The brawny man was Ron. 2 days ago, he had set off from Blackmoon Castle toward Monte town. When he arrived, he saw that the magical beasts had broken into Monte town, so he took action. For more than a week, he had been treated as a slave by the Blackmoon Castle. Anyone who saw him would give him orders. He had been suppressing his anger. You magical beasts are lucky. If young Master Watson didn't order us not to kill any magical beasts, I'd kill you already. Too bad he wanted us to capture you. Ron stepped on the ape's chest and stomped on it. I'll give you 2 choices: surrender or die. The ape howled and crawled up from the ground. It put its 6 arms together and laid on the floor. It trembled as it lowered its head. It seemed like it had chosen to surrender. The thousands of other magical beasts followed suit. That is a smart choice. Ron might have said that, but his eyes showed a different emotion. He had wanted the magical beasts to resist, then, he would have a reason to kill them to vent the anger in his heart. Ron, why are you only back now? Where's Audrey? With the help of a few guards, Geraint had left the East Gate's city wall and walked in front of Ron. His expression was a little agitated. Forget it, now is not the time to talk about that. Since you guys are back, there is hope for Monte town. Magical beasts have attacked us in all 4 directions, and many people are fleeing the town. Hurry up and help us. Mayor Geraint, long time no see. Ron turned to look at him and said, it's fine if you help. Geraint's expression immediately changed. What do you mean? I mean, you don't need my help. Monte town is fine. If you don't believe me, you can take a look. Ron raised his hand and pointed at Monte town. Geraint looked in the direction of his finger, and he saw a scene that surprised him. There were more than 10 giant rock golems around the town, they rose one after another. Those rock golems had surrounded Monte town to become a 100-meter-high city wall. They had managed to block the gap in the original wall. Other than that, there was smoke everywhere in the town. They could also hear roars from the magical beasts and cries of women and children from everywhere. Those sounds gradually weakened, and even the smoke had lessened. A group of guards stood in front of Monte town's west gate. They looked gloomy. They looked at the huge scaly magical beast with 2 bat-like wings. It looked like a lizard. The beast opened its bloodied mouth, which was filled with corrosive green mucus, and tore at a corpse. The luxurious clothes that the corpse had been wearing were torn, and its head was also in pieces. That body belonged to the director of Monte town's city defense force. He was one of only 4 officials. He had been a silver-tier warrior, but he could not even withstand a single blow from the Earth Dragon, a silver-tier magical beast. The Earth Dragon was a magical beast from the Dragon clan's bloodline. Even though it was not a full dragon, it was still the clan's descendant, which allowed it to reach the peak of the silver tier. It had broken through the city wall with its breath, which allowed thousands of magical beasts to invade the town. The director is dead. We definitely won't be able to live either. Damn it! How are we supposed to fight against such a monster? Indignant voices echoed. They complained about the unfairness of the world. None of them had done anything bad in their life. Why did they have to suffer such a tragic fate at the hands of those magical beasts? Just as the soldiers were about to put down their weapons and prepare for their impending deaths, they heard a chant from the sky. A fireball that looked like the sun fell from the sky. It melted the snowflakes around the area. It had fallen onto the earth dragon's body. A magnificent peak silver-tier magical beast, a terrifying existence that could kill even a silver-tier elite in an instant, was engulfed in flames and burned to ashes before it could even let out a single cry. A deep, charred pit that was 100 meters wide appeared on the ground. The earth shook as a huge mushroom cloud erupted into the sky. A few figures dressed as mages descended on silver-tier magical beasts. Someone recognized them and cheered. It's the elders from the Mage Guild. They're back. We're safe now. Thank you, Mage Guild. Thank you, President Audrey. Where's President Audrey? They thought that Audrey was the one who had killed the Earth Dragon. After all, only Audrey, a gold-tier mage, could do so. However, they did not see her. They only saw Anna, who was once Mage Guild's weakest member. Those guards were puzzled. They were even more surprised when they heard the mage's discussion. Really, Anna? Didn't young Master Watson say that he wanted to capture as many magical beasts as possible? That Earth Dragon could be sold for at least a few hundred gold coins, but you decided to cast a gold-tier spell on it. Do you know how much money we've lost? That was the Vice President, Leonard. Anna curled her lips when he heard his complaints. What could I have done? Who knew that the Earth Dragon was so weak? I only used half of my strength, and yet it still died. Leonard, I am the Mage Guild's president now, please address my title properly. Anna. President, I agree with Vice President Leonard's words. No matter how strong the Earth Dragon is, it's still a silver-tier magical beast. It didn't look like you were holding back when you cast that spell too. I agree too. Martin and Hellebel, who were behind them, spoke as well. Anna waved her hand impatiently. Yes, I know. Stop talking about that. I'll just use 1/10 of my strength later and guarantee that I won't kill any more magical beasts, alright? Go and catch those magical beasts, we'll make a huge fortune when we sell them to Monte Town. We can't let Ron get there first. A few days ago, she had consumed a sun gem in Blackmoon Castle to become a gold-tier mage, and she had not been idle. She had requested Watson to fuse the few silver-tier fire elemental spells that she had mastered. After she had the gold-tier fire elemental spell, the Sun Nova, she had to show it off her. She only used half of her strength to kill the mighty Earth Dragon. The city guards looked at each other in dismay. After they heard Anna and the others' discussion, they felt numb. They realized that those people were not there to protect Monte Town. Instead, they wanted to capture those magical beasts and sell them to the people in town. What kind of deceptive behavior was that? Chapter 179, We are from Blackmoon Castle. An hour later, in Monte Town's City Hall, Gerant and a group of people sat around a round table. Among them were Ron, Anna, the other members of the Mage Guild, and the three brothers, Zeke, Zenoa, and Peter. The City Hall's other officials were also there. Many of the officials were covered in blood, and they looked as if they had just survived a disaster. More than 100-meter-tall giant rock golems had appeared in all directions of Monte Town about an hour before that. They guarded the town, and any magical beasts that came near were crushed into meat paste. None of the beasts would withstand a single blow from the platinum-tier summoned creature. In addition, the giant rock golems were more than 100 meters tall, and their intimidating bodies caused the magical beasts from the misty forest to circle the town before they turned around and ran off to other places on the border. At that moment, the town was littered with corpses of men and magical beasts alike. The land had been dyed red, but the continuous snowfall soon covered that. The dead's family cried as they walked on the street sparsely to search for the bodies of their loved ones. It was the same scene every winter. People died, and eventually, they were forgotten. Geraint sighed inwardly as he allowed the medical staff to help him bandage the wound on his head. He looked like a mummy. Then, he turned around to look at the people in the room. Ron, and everyone from the Mage Guild, thank you for getting here in time to save Monte Town. I thank you on behalf of everyone in Monte Town. I would also like to thank these 3 young men for helping us. Since Ron, Anna, and the others were there, the mercenary groups and the Mage Guild members who had left the town gradually returned. They helped to suppress the remaining magical beasts. Geraint was fine with Ron and Anna, they were from Monte Town too. He had to thank those men too: Zeke, Zenoa, and Peter. He heard that they were the ones who brought the giant rock golems, and they also had more than 10 manor owners with them. At that moment, they were arranged to rest outside the city hall. An ordinary manor owner would not be able to control a platinum tier summoned creature even though they were rich and powerful. Geraint did not know the origin of those people. No need to thank us. We did not do anything. Ron crossed his legs and rested his feet on the long table. He was no longer in Blackmoon Castle. He had returned to his usual domineering manner. Humph! A disgruntled snort echoed from the side when he said that. A city hall official said unhappily, "Yes, you guys did not do much. If you guys didn't leave, how could Monte Town end up like this?" As one of the 4 towns on the border, Monte Town could easily survive the winter in the past. The city walls that surrounded the town were more than 10 meters tall, and they were made of bronze tier stone. They could withstand the attacks of bronze tier magical beasts easily. Most of the magical beasts from the Misty Forest were at the iron and bronze tier level. They had not been able to breach the walls. They would only see a few silver and gold tier beasts at the end of the winter. The Mage Guild and the mercenary group could deal with those beasts easily. However, that year, the elites from those 2 forces were not around, and the magical beasts had been particularly powerful. The city hall officials could not vent their anger at the magical beasts, so they could only shift the blame to Ron. One could not say they shifted the blame onto them. If they had not gone to Blackmoon Castle for their own selfish desire, would they have lost so many people that day? It was clearly their fault. Who do you think you're talking to? I'll give you a chance to say it again. Ron's eyes narrowed as a terrifying gold tier aura erupted from his body. The city hall official, who had spoken, paled, and his body trembled. Ron's arrogant words immediately caused dissatisfaction amongst those officials. Ron, I'm warning you. This is the city hall, don't be too arrogant. Let's talk about you instead. How much time did you waste in attacking Blackmoon Castle? You even took the astrologer with you. If he were here, he could have dealt with those magical beasts easily. Do you admit you're guilty of this crime? These 3 strangers must be people from Blackmoon Castle. They led thousands of magical beasts into the town. Even though they managed to restrain the other beasts, they also destroyed the town. Plus, they did not even kill those beasts, they only controlled them. What if they're planning something bad? It's dangerous to leave so many magical beasts around the town. How do you think you should compensate us? Geraint did not stop his subordinates when they jumped out to speak their mind. Perhaps he had the same concern too. The Mage Guild and the Northwind Mercenary Group were the town's strongest forces. He and a few city hall leaders only had silver tier strength, and the city defense force only had mostly iron and bronze tier warriors. They only had minimal silver tier elites. Usually, those 2 forces rely on their strength to seek personal benefits discreetly. He had always turned a blind eye to it. However, it looked like he would need to deal with those people. He was the mayor, he was the one with the most power there. I think you've misunderstood us. We don't have any sinister plans. Zeke tapped his finger on the table. We brought those magical beasts from Blackmoon Castle. They listen to our commands completely. They're not dangerous at all, including the magical beasts that we control. We will send them back to Blackmoon Castle for training, and they'll be a fighting force in the future. From now onward, winter will no longer bring disasters to the border. On the contrary, those 3 months would be a golden period for the border's development. Pooh! A few City Hall officials looked disdainful as they discussed it. What nonsense! You say that those magical beasts will listen to you, how are we supposed to believe you? Even if those domesticated magical beasts listen to you, how would you make those magical beasts in Monte Town listen to your command? Are you able to communicate with them? Do you have some special abilities? That's right. If something goes wrong, will you take responsibility for that? You should calculate our losses in Monte Town. More than 2,000 magical beasts had come to Monte Town, and more than 10,000 people had been killed, including more than 2,000 guards. Countless people lost their family members. What about those damaged houses and streets? As compensation, you can leave those giant rock golems here. One of the officials who spoke was an old man with white hair and a beard. He was the Minister of Finance. There was a calculating glint in his eyes. If they could keep the giant rock giants, they would profit from that battle. The rest of the officials also agreed. Not only the giant rock giants, but the magical beasts they brought must stay too. If it weren't for their battle with Blackmoon Castle, Monte Town wouldn't have become like this. You have to take full responsibility. Sorry, those giant rock giants are properties of Blackmoon Castle. If you want them to stay, then you'll have to pay 1,000 gold coins for each of them. If you don't want to pay and still want to keep them, forgive me for being blunt, that's not going to happen. Zenoa, who sat beside Zeke, laughed. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to us like that? You speak as if you can make the decision. There's no place for you to speak here. We will only talk to Ron and the people from the Mage Guild. They thought that Ron and the Mage Guild had brought the newcomers, and they believed Blackmoon Castle had been conquered. What right did those people have to speak there? Pa! Ron got up from his chair and reached out to hit the table in front of him hard. The long table broke into two. How dare you speak to young Master Zeno like that? Are you seeking death? Ron, what's wrong with you? The City Hall officials stared at the broken table on the ground, their eyes twitched. Ron must have already defeated the Blackmoon Castle, why would he speak up for them? The Mage Guild also stands with young Master Zenoa. If you disrespect him, I will relocate the Mage Guild. It's up to you. Anna was the second person to get up. You. The officials in the City Hall panicked. They had no problem with Ron leaving, but how would Monte Town withstand the magical beast's attack if the mages left too? Everyone, stop arguing and listen to me. Gerent's eyes flashed, and he waved his hand. Anna, you are only an elder with the Mage Guild. You don't call the shots. Get Audrey here, I want to talk to her. He had a good relationship with Audrey, she would definitely listen to him. He had the same thoughts as his subordinates. Audrey had brought the astrologer with her when she went to attack Blackmoon Castle to guarantee her victory. They must have fought a long time because their opponent had powerful summoned creatures like the giant rock golems. Gerald thought it was reasonable speculation. He was angry when Audrey took the astrologer with her. When he found out that the astrologer was in Monte Town, he had planned for a banquet fit for a king, but Audrey did not give him a chance to do that. It was obvious she did not think much of him. She must have occupied Blackmoon Castle. She was not in Monte Town because she had to consolidate her opponent's forces. It seemed like the Mage Guild had become stronger with that new force. Gerald needed a way to balance it out. Mayor Gerent, you have misunderstood. I am now the Mage Guild president. President Audrey died in the battle with Blackmoon Castle. All of us, including Ron, are part of Blackmoon Castle now. Anna looked at Gerent with a strange expression. Her words were like a bomb that stirred the waves on the water's surface. You want to talk to the subordinates, and even a dead person, instead of our master? Aren't you putting the cart before the horse? There's no room for the rest of us to speak when people from Blackmoon Castle are here. We are nothing compared to them. Chapter 180, Testing the Magical Beasts. What did you say? Geraint had yet to recover from his shock when he heard Anna's words. He opened his mouth subconsciously, all his deductions had been wrong. Did the Mage Guild lose? It was not only him, the others looked surprised too. What about the astrologer? Geraint doubted that the astrologer would lose, but Ron interrupted him before he could finish his words. The astrologer became young Master Watson's master because he valued young Master Watson's talent, and now he is also a member of Blackmoon Castle. By the way, Ron and the Mage Guild members, except for Miss Anna, are only Blackmoon Castle slaves. Zeke knew that Geraint had a misunderstanding, so he smiled as he threw that bombshell at him. Are they for real? Geraint leaned against his chair weakly. The Mage Guild had lost, and the astrologer had rebelled against them. Blackmoon Castle could move unhindered across the entire border with the support of a platinum tier elite. Not many people would dare to provoke Blackmoon Castle after that. Even if the Ptolemy family was influential in the kingdom, they still had to respect the astrologer. He thought Ron and the Mage Guild members had returned from their victory against the Blackmoon Castle. It seemed like it was the opposite, Blackmoon Castle had control over them. Geraint took a few deep breaths before he recovered from the shock. He sat up straight and put on a polite attitude. My dear distinguished guests from Blackmoon Castle, my men might have offended you just now. Please forgive us. You just said that we could buy a giant rock golem for 1,000 gold coins. I want to buy a few more, and I can pay 1,500 gold coins for each one. Regardless of Blackmoon Castle's power, he would not dare to offend them due to their relationship with the astrologer. If he had known about the Mage Guild's defeat, he would not have let his subordinates make those inappropriate remarks, he would get them to compliment Blackmoon Castle instead. He wondered if their words had angered Zeke. What if the man was mad and reported the issue to the astrologer? It was all Ron's fault. Ron had acted so arrogantly that he thought they had won the battle. Was that not cheating? He was furious. Geraint glared at Ron in anger. Monte Town could not even withstand a magical beast, let alone bear the wrath of a platinum tier elite. Mayor Geraint, there's no need to do that. I've just said it. A giant rock golem costs 1,000 gold coins. That price will not change. The people of Blackmoon Castle are all friendly businessmen. We bear no ill intentions. When Zeke saw that Geraint wanted to back down, he waved his hand and said, other manor owners had rented those giant rock golems. If you would like them, Mayor Geraint, I'll go back to Blackmoon Castle to get them for you. There might not be enough time. I do have many magical beasts. I can sell them to you first. The price is 1 gold coin for a bronze tier magical beast and 10 gold coins for a silver tier magical beast. Other than magical beasts, we can also provide excellent weapons and armor. We can guarantee that Monte Town will be able to survive this crisis. The price is also 1 gold coin for bronze tier equipment and 10 gold coins for silver tier equipment. What do you think? Zeke could certainly take advantage of the chance to raise, if not double, the price of the giant rock golem. He thought Gerald had nothing to say, but he did not intend to do so because Blackmoon Castle wanted to establish a long-term arrangement with Monte Town, not a one-time deal. Davis, what do you think? Gerard pondered for a moment before he turned to look at the finance minister, Davis, who was beside him. Davis was in charge of the finances of the entire Monte Town, and he was more proficient at material prices. Lord Mayor, bronze tier monsters and equipment are generally sold for several gold coins or even 10 gold coins, and better silver tier equipment can fetch the price of 100 gold coins. I think that the price is very low. However, we need to inspect the goods first to see if there are any problems with those magical beasts and weapons. Davis stroked his white beard as he spoke. His tone was no longer as fiery as before that. He realized that Blackmoon Castle was so strong that not even the Mage Guild and the Northwind mercenary group could defeat it. He could not provoke them, he wanted to repay their sincerity instead. Of course, he did not simply believe Zeke's words. Did Blackmoon Castle lower the prices out of the kindness of their hearts? He did not think so. It was also possible that the items were defective, so he did not dare to offer a high price. Young masters from Blackmoon Castle, I want to see the goods you mentioned. Will there be any problem? As colleagues who had worked together for many years, Gerant understood what Davis meant and asked tentatively. Of course, Mayor Gerant, please. Zeke stood up and gave a traditional noble salute. He made an inviting gesture with a confident expression. He believed that their magical beasts would definitely satisfy the people at Monte Town. Half an hour later, at a manor nearby Monte Town's west gate. It used to be the residence of a rich man. A few hours ago, that rich man and his servants were torn apart by the magical beasts that broke through the west gate. Then, the guards had cleared that place and used it to house the magical beasts. Hundreds of guards surrounded the manor. They were on high alert as they watched the inside of the manor with nervous expressions. They subconsciously tightened their grip on the weapons in their hands, they feared that the beasts would escape. There were more than 50,000 magical beasts in the manor. One by one, they crawled on the ground, they filled the manor to the brim. Only a vast empty space was left in the middle. More than 100 magical beasts of various shapes and sizes stood there. There was a storm eagle that was combing its long feathers. There was also a two-headed winged liger. When any of the magical beasts caught their eye, those beasts would lower their heads. Those magical beasts in the middle were all silver-tier beasts, they were well-deserved kings. No other magical beasts would dare to act so rashly. Did you bring those silver-tier magical beasts in the innermost part of the manor, young Master Zeke? There are more than 100 silver-tier magical beasts there. Blackmoon Castle is really rich. Gerant stood outside the manor as he looked into it. His gaze fell on the silver-tiered magical beasts in the middle. He sighed. A few guards beside him noticed that, so they walked up to him respectfully and said, "Greetings, Lord Mayor." He nodded in response. "That's right, Mayor Gerant. Those magical beasts are from the Blackmoon Castle," Zeke said. "Those magical beasts look pretty good. I wonder how strong they are." The finance minister, Davis, who was following Gerant, said as he looked at the magical beasts in the center of the manor carefully. The magical beasts were mainly sorted into 3 categories: size, species, and the color of their fur. There was no need to mention their sizes. The larger a magical beast was, the greater its strength and defense. Its species was also critical. As silver-tier magical beasts, large carnivorous magical beasts were stronger than rabbits and pheasants with a grassy diet. Next was the color of its fur. The purer the color, the purer its bloodline. Since he had a detailed understanding of magical beasts, Davis discovered that the silver-tier magical beasts brought by Blackmoon Castle were all top-tier in terms of size, species, and color of their fur. He could even tell at a glance which of the 50,000 magical beasts were wild ones and which belonged to Blackmoon Castle. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with those beasts, but who knows if there are any diseases that can't be seen from the outside. Davis muttered softly. He was still a little worried. In his opinion, each of those magical beasts could be sold for at least 100 gold coins, but Blackmoon Castle wanted to sell them for only 10 gold coins. It was too big of a loss. Which businessman in the world would want to make a loss? If Sir Davis has doubts, let's do a test. I'll pick a random magical beast to fight against Monte Town's silver-tier soldiers. We'll see who wins in the end. That way, they should be able to verify the quality of the magical beasts, Zeke said. That was a good idea. The officials who were traveling with him looked at each other and nodded. Gerant also agreed and gave an order to the group of guards around the manor. Go and find me a silver-tier warrior. After he said that, he thought for a moment and said, "No, let's get a few more Silver-tier warriors and invite Edmund as well." Humans were no match for magical beasts of the same level as them. It was better to get a few more men just to be on the safe side. They could see the power of those Silver-tier magical beasts that Zeke had brought with him when they fought against the Silver-tier warriors.